First thing we see is why is a good name better than precious ointment or oil, which would be fragrant, smell good. Just think of the best smelling perfume you could ever put on. Why would that be a good name be better than that? It fades in time. We have to reapply it, don't we? And I think it's true. And a good name stays with you. And a bad name, bad reputation can too. That's why it's so sad to speak evil of someone. Whispering and backbiting and that sort of thing can hurt the character that spreads to places where we can never go and correct it. You never know where things go. So we tell the truth about things where we watch our tongues. We don't involve in whispering and backbiting. We have a problem. We go to the sinner himself and herself. But I think that's the main thing, that a good name is better than precious oil because it fades and a good name stays with you. And yes, sir. Wayne?
And also, precious oil is something used to hide or cover up something bad, and a good name is something that's just good.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It's hard to achieve.
Because it's coming from the inside anyway. It's out there, isn't it? The good name, because somebody else knows it's good because they see who you really are, and that's a great analogy. That the oil part is usually covering up something, and it will fade, and all those things are important. So it's the idea you need to pursue the idea of good character. How many people in the world do that? They'd rather smell good than be good. And a lot of times, I'll be authentic, I'll be myself, but I'm not going to be good if I don't want to be good. I'll just do what I want to do. And what we have is, being God's people, we have the humility to submit to someone higher than ourselves, and his name is Jehovah. His name is God. And we follow the Lord, Jesus Christ. And he has expressed himself as being God, and here we are, man. So a good name is a wonderful thing to have. And when you think of people, do you think about the good that they do, and realize that that's a part of their makeup, and it's a permanent thing through life. And any other thoughts along those lines? It's not wrong to smell good, and please cover up what you don't want us to smell or anything like that. All has its place, and we're supposed to, Ecclesiastes, anoint ourselves with oil, be happy. You're not involved in avoiding the good things that we think about life, but this is better. This is better because of that. Why is the day of one's death better than the day of one's birth? Why is that?
At birth, that life's not lived yet. You don't have a good name at birth, you have a good name at death.
Oh, that's true. You've experienced life under the sun, hadn't you? You've gone through all the difficulties. You have the experiences of good and the bad, and here you're just coming into this world. And we don't have a choice over the day of our death, and we'll see as we'll get into chapter 8, we don't have power over the day of our death, birth or death. We see the sun and we experience life under the sun, and to have that experience is better not to have it at all. And so we have the good and the bad, and now we're going to see things of sorrow and why things are the way they are, and how we should look at those difficult days, like the day of one's death. So we go to question number 3: when can the days of sorrow be better than the days of laughter? Do you wake up every morning and say, I want to be sorrowful today because it's better than laughter? Let's just notice what it says and see if you can find it. Because the first 2 questions, it's declaration. It's just what God says. And we're trying to figure out why. And I think you have good reasoning for that. And I think it's very biblical and correct. But it says, it is better to go to the house of mourning than to the house of feasting. So you got mourning, you got laughter, feasting. I'm leading up to that. For why is it? Because this is the end of all men, and what happens? What should happen? Who attends our funeral? They're living, and we're remembering the good name. That's what we're remembering. We'll have a eulogy. Those are good things to say about somebody. You, good. But the point is that the living will lay it to their end. What are they laying to their end? Well, this is the end of all men. They lay it to his heart. Excuse me. I see that. I can't avoid this. So what do I learn from it if I'm wise?
It's a matter of sobriety tends to make you think, whereas frivolity, you don't think as much.
Yes.
You don't think about the serious matters of life.
Yeah.
You're just frivolous and just out there having fun all the time. Sobriety of the house of mourning tends to make you think about
And mortality and the fact that this is going to happen to you. We're all going to die, unless the Lord comes back today before we die. And is he saying that you should be sober-minded to the sense that you never laugh? You never like those sunshiny days where everything's going good for you and everything's falling into place, and it's just a good day where you feel good, and when everybody said, have a blessed day, well, you had it. Have a happy day, I had it. It's one of those times that you can never have those days. He's not contrasting it with that, but he said, those days will come, and instead of avoiding the funeral, avoiding the reality of death, you embrace it in a wise way. You can mourn over the one because we're departed by death, and we're feeling sorry for ourselves as they have gone on into the world of the spirits and then unto the eternal judgment in the last day. But we're able to look at that and say, this is something that I need to consider. And the quietness of a place where the funeral's being done, there's not laughter. It's serious sober-mindedness, and it has its place in life. We saw in chapter 3, it's a time to be born and a time to die. Well, it's better to have lived so you could die than never to be born, and or to be born and not experience that. So we're seeing the better things without saying they don't have their place in life that you should never consider. But what he's trying to do, could you ever think there could be anything beneficial from me going to a funeral? And how would some people look at all those flowers? Don't you know in a day or two they're dead? Why do we do that? Why do we do that? And you debate whether you're going to see the body, view the body or not. And I don't want to see people. I don't want to see people when I'm dead, but, you're just asleep. Well, that's different. I got pictures of me being asleep a lot now, so I have that. So it's you try to make the best of them, but sometimes it's just all negative. It's just everything negative. But here's something that's very positive for our well-being. It's for me sitting there. It said, this is the end of all men, and I'm going to lay it to my heart, that fact. And while we're at a ball game or we're at a festival or we're out having fun, there's not any wrong in that. But you're probably not going to have that sober thought. That moment you're not going to have. And I think that's why he's saying it is better, because you're now experiencing a reality of life that you're not going to avoid, and you're learning something from it. This is the wise way to live under that. So with that point, when can the days of sorrow be better than the days of laughter? This is one that it tests you, but you think about it and you realize, well, I'm going to this place of feasting. Instead of feast, I'm going to this place of mourning. So he says sorrow is better than laughter. Oh, morbid Solomon. this is why this book is so depressing. No, we've already seen it's a wise way to live. It's not morbid. It says, so let's look at it. Why could it be better than laughter? Because he says, for by the sadness of the counsel, or the countenance, I got a sad moment. He says, the heart is made glad. So what makes that better? What makes sorrow better? Well, the sad countenance, the heart is made glad, is because I have a frowny face that I should be happy about that? Is that it? What's your thoughts on that? Why is it better to have sorrow? And the sadness of the countenance, it's going to bring forth laughter. So there's nothing wrong with laughter, nothing wrong with sorrow. But what makes the day of sorrow better than those days?
Sure. I think of it as thinking of a particular member here that has passed, and she had a life well lived. She was faithful, she had challenges, but she lived a complete life under God. And so she's in a better place because of that. And we know it's better for her.
So the sadness of death, you're thinking about, you can have the joy where she is better for her.
Right, and I mean, she had joy in living. It wasn't a matter of, she had joy in living.
Right. And so we see that the current reality is happiness, because we realize that we've been at the funeral and we see the sadness of it. So how, and that's true. It's how we're looking at it. But what happens when a person is not going to have a great eternity, and we know it, and from Scripture and all that, that becomes a area. How could our sad countenance ever lead to being joyous? And a lot of times it can never be, because we're looking from perspective of a Christian, and I understand that. But what do we do in those cases? You just hammer home the fact that they're not a Christian and there's no hope or anything like that. Usually we pick out good things to remember, don't we? That's an issue, and we're saddened by that. But what do we think about of things that could bring happiness? And so this issue of, because of a sad countenance, I become happy. We got to think of, well, those are areas where we could do that. But think about it. Anybody else has something before you want to add? All right, think about this. Would you rather go from sadness to happiness for the day, or from happiness to sadness for the day? Which would you prefer? Which would be better? It's those moments I'm sad at a funeral, and I can leave thinking, well, we consider the good things of people. We consider those who are Christians, they're in a better place. I've taken in some wisdom. I'm going to die, so I need to think about doing better. But wouldn't you rather go to a positive than a negative? And I think that may be all he's talking about. It's through the countenance that we realize we don't stay sad if we're healthy-minded, but we'll turn into joy. And how many times do we leave funerals and remember things? We're saddened by that, but we can leave with happiness because of our memories, because of what we understand about people. And it just may be it's better, because I'd rather go from sadness to happiness than happiness to sadness, and here I am. Here I am right now, sad. I'd rather be happy. And I think that would be the preferred way of doing it. And it's through, if I never have the countenance, the sadness, and have the difficulties, I may not understand just later on how blessed I was at the time, or how wonderful I learned things from that. All of those things. make us better, and we can rejoice in that. And I'm just thinking that along this line, he's just why those days, because you've gone to the house of mourning, you put yourself in a place where, yes, it's sad, but you can leave with happiness, and the points that have been made would go along with it, even when we have to remember the good things that one did in life, because not everybody just totally bad, except, there may be some, I don't know. Some are pretty cranky when they die, and it's all you remember, so that's kind of bad. Walter Brennan was like that, I think. Man, most hated. Most hated. You can look him up. I didn't think he was all that bad, but here's his real life and things. So there's the idea of I want to be on days of happiness, and God wants us to be happy. We'll see in chapter 9, live with the wife whom thou lovest all the days of thy life. Do joyously. Anoint yourself with oil. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. Enjoy. It's not pessimistic, but it's just ideal. If I avoid the day of sorrow, that day of laughter may not be as sweet as it can be because of experiences, and you can still look at the joy of things and experience all facets of life. Part of living is being born, and part of living is dying. And this is the wisdom in between. And so anything you want to add, wow, the days of sorrow better because we need to be sober-minded and quit the frivolity and not be happy, Kristen? I don't think so. Yes?
Well, I think that you also preparing yourself is a reminder you need it at your time of living,
That's right.
and you need to prepare yourself for that.
And when we're young, we dodge bullets, don't we? It's not going to hit us. We're okay that, and then we realize that's not the case. All right, any other thoughts? Because that's the wisdom of doing that. Question number 4. When are rebukes good for us? Only when I like them? Only when I accept them? When are they good for us?
The whole purpose of rebukes is correction.
That's right.
And this whole world nowadays is everybody doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear it to be corrected. They just want people to say, well, you go your way and I'll go mine, and don't correct me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true in our present culture. When Solomon writes this, he says, it is better to hear, so we've got the better things going here, it's better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the song coming from whom? Fool. So I've got rebuke, but here's the fool. You're just so wonderful. You're so great. Everything's wonderful about you. Well, thank you. You say that's pretty good, and then you really don't want to hear it in the rebuke. You ruin the day. But it's the rebuke of the wise, and there's where we have to realize, and the wise person will be coming to you with humility. You don't ever want somebody coming to you. They may be wise, but they're letting you know that they're wiser than you, and you're an idiot. You're a fool. Why did you do that? Wisdom is careful how we approach people, especially what is rebuke? It's correction. You went the wrong way, and I think it'd be better to go this way. Well, live your own life, mind your own business. That's kind of a reaction that we have. So what has to win out on that is humility. And the Bible speaks about humility versus pride. And we'll see that the song of fools, sometimes they're buttering you up for a kill. They're wanting to get something out of you. They're foolish. They're living for all their own well-being, their own money, their own pride, and that sort of thing. And so they just sing the song because he knows that's what we like. And are we made up to say, I just like to be rebuked all the time and show what I'm doing wrong. I never like any praise from anybody. Who likes that? No. So, but it's better if we're all here, if every man praises you. Jesus warned, that's what they did to the false prophets. And that's not good to be a false prophet. And am I your enemy because I tell you the truth? No, we should seek the truth. But when we consider someone wise and there's rebuke, what do? We're going to listen. And it's better to do that than to hear 10 people praise you and you got one person that says, and the way they handle that is important as well. How did Aquila and Priscilla talk to Apollos when he was a public speaker? And he had preached certain things. What did they do? They stand up in the middle of it and shut the whole thing down and tell him and rebuke him for his teaching. I saw evangelical churches, and everybody has their issues, and there was I guess the church was trying to get people to be more open-minded, and the so-called pastor of the church had invited a person that, and what he did, he was an artist in the sense that he would get on a pole, like a dance pole in a strip joint, and he took his clothes, he took his shirt off, and he wrapped himself around that pole, and that was, I don't know what was supposed to teach the conference. Oh, it was how to be real men. It was a man's conference, so you got a bunch of men out there. But what appealed to them? I've maybe been seeing that at the strip joint, and there's that pole. Well, the pastor who had that conference did, but he invited another pastor on, and he just all of a sudden said, "What we see here is the spirit of Jezebel, trying to entice men and all that." He looked at that as what happens at strip clubs and all those things, and there was men, and so the pastor said, "Get off the stage, leave." Now, he was making, from his point of view, who was left, and he did leave. From his point of view, he would just say, "What did you just see?" He was making an observation, and it was off the cuff, but he rebuked the whole thing. And what did the pastor do? The pastor came, but he never came to me. I was with him 30 minutes before this thing started. He never talked to me about how bad it is. And now he speaks out. And he said, "You need to apply Matthew 18. So he had scripture. Go to that person alone. If that person has sinned. But that thing is sinning against the individual, not the idea of sin in general. So that pastor needs to study his Bible better too. But the point is, how could that have been handled? Were you trying to make a name for yourself? It was videoed, and he knew it was. And he stood up for the truth. And you could agree with him on principle. But did you think that pastor took that rebuke very well? It surely was a rebuke for the whole thing. But it's how things are done. And could it have been handled, well, you're going to have that, and this is why I'm having a problem with it, and as well, you don't need to be at the conference. It could have gone that way, and he wouldn't have his say. A lot of factors involved, but wisdom is not only, here's the way that you missed it, and here's what God says do it, but how you go about it is very important. And sometimes that is never going to be helpful. As one preacher said, there's more ways to skin a cat, and the cat doesn't like any of them. And there's reality to that. Sometimes you have to speak with elders in public. Paul talks about that. Rebuke them in public because they're over a flock and they're going the wrong way. That may be what this other pastor was thinking. But the point is how it was rejected. Just because you hit someone's pride, here's what this guy thought would be a good introduction for manhood. I don't understand it yet, other than get your attention. But there's the sense of how we put forth the rebuke. Yes, sir?
Well, that pastor, since he did something publicly, then it would have to be like Paul did to Peter, about claiming his sin. That's the thing
That's true.
that pastor is missing the point.
I agree with that. And you'd be on his side, and there were a lot of them said, "Bring the guy back. We liked him. He told us the truth." So you'd be on that side. I'm just saying, from the standpoint of how it affected men in reality, it's just an illustration of how we might be careful, even though I've already said he misapplied Matthew 18. And your point is that he misapplied Matthew 18. And that's true. It's public. And it's not personal sin against me. It's public. And the truth is out there. And that's what's being said. But people, if someone has a sermon out there and someone also takes it on, but it's public, I don't have a problem with that if they're accurate in what they say about it. But personal sin that one does, it's good to go to them. And I've done both, and sometimes none of it works. And it just shows you, well, maybe you're not so wise to rebuke me, and that may be true. But I'm trying to follow wisdom, and we have to. The teachings of the New Testament is what rebukes us. All Scripture is given by inspiration of God. It's profitable for doctrine or teaching, for reproof, rebuke, exhortation. The Scriptures are there for rebuke and a correction, hit to their conscience why it's wrong, and here's what needs to be corrected. And exhortation is the way that you should go. And the Scriptures offer that to us. And we don't, as your point, we don't need to pervert it. To me, both sides was involved with something, and it was just a catastrophe of trying to get out of that mess and a bunch of men. We messed it all up. So sometimes rebuke with wisdom is something that I need to hear. I need to hear. Jerry, there's no I in grievous. It's not grievous. You say that. It's not grievous. Well, he's right. And I will never forget it. And when I read that word in my American Standard Version, I think about it. But I just heard people say grievous. That's just a grievous thing. Well, that's the way people talk. And you learn better. So that was a good rebuke. And he did it in private. And he didn't call me down from the pulpit and that sort of thing. So you appreciate that. And I just think that goes a long way of the truly wise. They may have good information, but are they trying to promote themselves? That motive has to be there too, both sides of it. Anything you'd like to add to that one? What he says, because be not, okay. What is it? I want to see verse 6. For as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fool. This also is vanity. So what is he saying about the song of fools? It's like what? Because it's vanity, there's no substance. So why follow that? It's fleeing by. What's fleeing by? You got a hot fire. It's crackling. It's making a lot of noise. But it's soon going to end, right? It's not going to be very, very helpful. For as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fool. For a while it gives you a charge, it gives you something, but it's fleeing. And I can still remember things when I started preaching, what people try to help me. And you keep learning. But the song of fools, it feels good for a while. It's kind of like eating wafer cookies and sugar. Well, you're feeling good for a while, then you hit down, don't you? That's what sugar does. And that's why we have to look through that and avoid that because it's a good high, but the low goes down pretty quickly too. All right, any other thoughts? Okay. Why do you not want to hear the song of fools? I went too fast. It's not going to be long-lasting for you. And like sugar, you want some more. You're never going to have enough of that. And a lot of it's no substance to it. So anything you want to add to that one? But do you like to hear songs of praise? Of something you've done good? I did something, and now somebody noticed that. There's nothing wrong with that, and we do that. We encourage one another when that happens, and a lot of times you just have to pay attention to what people are doing, and just observe things, and give them a kind word and about things. That's not foolish. That's part of exhortation and encouragement, and we all need that. But just the song coming from fools that just praising for the sake of you know when the praise is there and there's no substance to it. I've hit a golf ball at the tee box and goes out into the trees, and I hear, "Great shot, Jerry." Well, was he sarcastic? No, he was trying to encourage me. That's not so bad. We can go hit it. That was the context of that one. But I didn't need any praise then. I didn't deserve that. That was a bad shot. And I've hit tee shots in the water. I've done it 6 times before I gave up. I gave up because I ran out of balls. So you just have to call it a bad day. But I don't want to hear anybody, "Well, great shot, Jerry. That was good." They didn't say it that day. It was sorrow. But the thing is, we know when something you've done your best and you say it wasn't too bad, someone just to say the good things about it. They may pick a part that you hadn't thought about, that was real and true. That part is not foolish at all. Okay. Question number 6 and 7. What can take away the understanding of a wise man? One of the things before we leave this, question number 10. Say not thou, what is the cause that the former days were better than these? For thou dost not inquire wisely concerning this. I didn't put that in there, but how many times do we think about the good old days? Do we do that a lot? And there's nothing wrong in having memories, and our emotions are connected with our memories. We remember we felt something strongly because that memory was important, and so it's there in our memory bank. And so that we think of things that are good, we do that. But what is he saying here is that the former days were better than these, and that's a blanket statement. And reality is we're not wise in doing that, because sometimes we will have nostalgia of things, and they weren't necessarily better. I think my teenage years and when I was growing up, I look at that. I'd rather have those days than what young people are growing up today. So they're better. But what was that? We had 3 assassinations. I remember when I was 18 years old. We had the Vietnam War. I go on and think, well, am I going to be drafted or not? I'll stay in college or not? I'm going to be drafted. War and all the things that happen, we just forget about that. I was 16 to 18, life's good. And but now it doesn't mean that they were better, because things are pretty rough now. So to live in the past and to think that's better than what we're going through now, it's not productive. Can you ever live in the past and actually live? Because you're living in the present, aren't you? When you're thinking about that, you're living in the present. That's the only reality you have. How are you going to spend the reality? What's here? Well, you're trying to make things better so that when that time passes, you can look back with fondness of what you did. Instead of what you planned to do, you never did it. You did it. And so we've got to live in what I call the precious present. It's so precious. That's the only reality we live in every moment. It's just now. And make the best of that. So with that said, wisdom is good as an inheritance, yea, more excellent as it is for them that see the sun. For wisdom is a defense, even as money is a defense. And he says, but the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom preserveth the life of him that hath life. So what can take away the understanding of men, or of the wise men? Extortion. People can take away, they can bribe you, and that destroys the wisdom of man. So which is better to have, as we read here about had to have wisdom or money? So they could bribe you and take away things, but so that's money side of it. But what about wisdom? Which is better to have? Both of them have a place, don't they? But what makes wisdom better than money? What's that? Okay, that's right. It said, wisdom preserveth the life of him that hath that. And so here's the ecstasy of knowledge. How am I preserved? Is the point. You can't take away the wisdom. I can live with the good things. I can live with the bad things. And does money buy health? Well, I listen to things about people who are rich. You can have a lot of money, but what's the common denominator? We're going to die, aren't we? Sometimes there's not enough money can pay for that. And you get a child with a disease, and and you may have all the money in the world. You may be a quarterback, and you may be famous, and you have millions, and you have plenty of money, and you have a boy that lives 8.5 years because of his disability, and it just throws you off. You have all the money in the world, but you can't save him. And that becomes a very difficult thing. How do you get through that? You have wisdom. And a lot of people have come to know God, to realize they put their trust in him. Thank you. And that preserves your life. And and we can talk more about that next time, Lord willing. Any final comments you'd like to make? We can consider. Okay. Thank you very much for being here and participation.